A new study reveals immigrants who have become new American citizens could be influential in the 2020 election, particularly in key swing states like Georgia, Arizona, and Michigan.
Conducted by the progressive group New American Leaders, researchers found new citizens make up more than 400,000 potential voters in Georgia, more than 300,000 in Arizona, and 64,000 eligible voters in Michigan. Joining us to expand on this is Sayu Bhojwani, founder and president of New American Leaders. Welcome, Sayu.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Tell us why these voters are so key in this election.
Well, we see that it's important that if we're going to build an inclusive democracy, that everyone is included. And so they're important because they are Americans and they're part of our democracy. But they're also important because we are in one of the most crucial election cycles in modern history, and we really can't afford to leave any votes on the table.
So, Sayu, tell us a little bit about the character of these immigrants. Like, as in, do we know anything about them? How long have they been in the country? Did they not get citizenship up until now because of the election? And do we know anything about how they're going to vote?
Well, I think that there's quite a wide range of people who are included in what we are calling new American voters, because we're including everyone who is a naturalized citizen, some of whom might have become citizens this year, some who became citizens 10 years ago. And so it's quite a diverse pool, also in terms of ethnicity, in terms of whether they are from Mexico or India or China or the Philippines or Honduras. So the challenge, I think, is that we have a population of folks who are diverse in background and in their relationship to America in terms of how long they've been here. But the opportunity is that they're all very committed to participating in democracy. And what we're leaving on the table is the fact that, for example, in fall of 2016, a study conducted of registered Asian American voters showed that only 30% of them had been contacted by either party or by a candidate. And so we have this huge pool of people who remain untapped and are hungry for engagement if only we're able to reach out to them. And
That's
the map, this is the last point in this answer that I just want to make, is that the challenge is that we tend to go after what are known as prime voters. And so people like me who became naturalized citizens don't become prime voters until we've been voting for several election cycles, and the onus is left on the voter to participate.
And so what do we know about how that goes? I mean, do they usually figure it out, or do they usually just end up staying home?
Well, I think it's a mix of responsibility, right? There's the individual responsibility to get involved. There is the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and candidates' responsibility to get them involved. But frankly, the burden tends to fall on under-resourced civic engagement groups that tend to get their money late in the election cycle and then inevitably are unable to reach this entire pool of voters. So I think 1 year out from the 2020 elections, we have an opportunity to do a lot more to support civic engagement groups, to encourage presidential candidates and down-ballot candidates to knock on the doors of these voters. And presidential candidates obviously are not necessarily going to knock on these voters, but I think two things that they can do is engage trusted ambassadors in the community, whether they're new American elected officials or community leaders. But also, I think the presidential candidates have an opportunity to endorse down-ballot races where state legislative candidates, for example, are more likely to connect with voters who represent these communities.
And so what do we know just about the sheer numbers? You know, you put that up on the screen. We put that up on the screen for the swing states. The sheer number of newly naturalized citizens since 2016, how many is there?
Well, the specific thing that we know is that there is the ability in Florida, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in particular right now with the existing number of registered naturalized citizens to change the outcome of the election in one direction or another. We also know that if we're engaging naturalized citizens who are not yet registered in other places like Arizona, for example, or in Florida, they can actually make up the margin of victory.
And is there any candidate or campaign that you point to as a model who've been successful at engaging these new voters?
Yeah, unfortunately not. I think that Asian American and Latino voters and other new Americans tend to be given short shrift in the conversation between the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt. And what we are suggesting is that there's a both and strategy, that you can reach Rust Belt voters and Sun Belt voters, some of whom are new Americans, but that you can also expand the electorate to include people who have never voted before or tend to vote less often.
Very interesting.
Very
Sayu,
interesting.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Sayu.
Thank you.
Next on Rising, Democratic primary debate number 6, just about 2 weeks away.
Just yesterday, one candidate exited the race and another has qualified, and several others are right on the cusp. We're going to talk debate stage with Team Rising. That's next. Stay tuned.